Historically, our peoples, Indigenous peoples, lived a passionate, creative, connected relationship with the natural world and with each other. There's this constant yearning for unification with the natural world. You have an exceptional taonga here called Waipoua, but the most important taonga that you have is yourselves.
Ko ngā tino whāinga o te Rau Titapu, e pēnei ana. He whakatupu I te aroha, I te kotahitanga I te māramatanga ki te iwi. He whakatupu I te tangata whenuatanga ki te iwi. He whakatupu I ngā kōrero mō ngā tupuna. He whakatupu I ngā mōhio ki ngā tikanga o te wānanga, a o tātou tupuna, o nāi nei hoki. Te Rau Titapu is a series of wānanga intended to act as a process for the realisation of mana within the community of Waipoua.
Mana typically expresses itself through one's skills and one's abilities. That, you know, I can do this or I can do that, and is an expression of my mana. Unlocking the creative potential of a people is about realising and unlocking the mana of a people and bringing that forth.
Kia ora, kia ora. Hello. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year. Hey, Bubby.
The name was derived from a koho composed by Māori Mazen. E tūpou ana te Rau Titapu o ngā rangatira, as a reference to the headdress, the chiefly headdress of a rangatira.
Te Rau Titapu is a profound tohu mana. It's to do with the sacred feathers of the headdress, and which is to do with tapu and mana and mauri of the person. And so Te Rau Titapu is about bringing people to an experience of their own mana. That's the big goal we're aspiring to, that people walk the earth dwelling in their own mana, dwelling powerfully in their mana.
Te Rau Titapu is really looking at what role wānanga plays in collectivising the people, but also gaining a better understanding of what wānanga are.
Wānanga is the traditional word that we can most closely associate with the creation of new knowledge.
Te Rau Titapu sets out to provide a better understanding of a more contemporary community-based wānanga.
We are running a project which is about understanding what wānanga is. And I'm here as a researcher to understand how do you run a wānanga. And our communities run such things all over the countryside, and continuously so. When I was thinking about my own research at Ngā Pai o te Māramatanga, I knew always at some point I was going to do something around wānanga, because I had previously done a lot of research around the topic of mātauranga Māori. But I discovered that really I'm not really that interested in mātauranga Māori for its own sake, but I'm much more interested in mātauranga Māori and its approach to creativity. That's what I'm most interested in, is how to be creative and creativity. And when you're swimming around inside mātauranga Māori and you're interested in creativity, you inevitably end up with wānanga. I want research to be real, to be really focusing on what are the actual issues and problems and opportunities facing our communities, so that when the responsible leadership of our communities turn to manage their communities and manage their organisations, they had a body of knowledge and some help and so on about how to create positive transformation in their communities.
Wānanga in and of itself is a methodology of research. One of the goals of Te Rau Titapu is to reform a model of wānanga that is meaningful specifically to the community of Waipoua.
We know our tupuna walk this land. The way I feel about it, I'm just sort of grateful that I'm part of that big chain.
The model looks something like this in terms of a framework. Kōrero whai mana, which are narratives for the iwi. Mahi whai mana, the experience that we have. And tohu mana are the expressions.
Somehow we need to fashion not just a vision, but also a practical experience of marae iwi hapu whānau life that offers people something they cannot get anywhere else. It offers something to them that's nourishing and empowering of them. Individuals and groups are motivated by the stories they tell themselves about themselves, absolutely. One of the problems, though, with iwi communities is that we don't have an encompassing, unifying, nourishing narrative. We have narratives about our histories. We have narratives about our right to this and that, to, and so on. But we don't really have much by way of narrative to say that these are the values that we hold. This is the kind of human beings that we are. What we have is in 1856, big bad Pākehā came along and ripped off our land and this, that, and that. We've got oodles of that. But we don't have it much by way of saying that when we come together as a people, this is how we resolve our conflicts. That when we come together as a people, we recognise we do have conflicts and we have some kind of tools and we have some kind of way out of it. That's what I think is lacking.
So I feel like we're at that potential phase.
We established what is known as Te Mana Whakahaere, o Te Rau Titapu, and that comprises 9 people. A core group, a planning group, who had a vested interest in the project in Te Rau Titapu and wanted to actually help steer things.
There's a few who have committed to it, to the wānanga, and yet they will be our strength in the future.
Establishing Te Mana Whakahaere as a group whose role essentially is to, as kaitiaki of the kaupapa, te ate o te kaupapa, that oversees the whakawhanaungatanga wānanga, which are essentially activities that enable the physical experience of whenua.
I think the being together in itself is part of that creative process because ideas are being thrown about, people are testing ideas perhaps against each other.
How do you make it relevant? Is it relevant or why isn't it relevant?
I think the process itself of exploring and having those conversations creates new levels or new playing fields or whatever. So yeah, I think that is valuable even if just for that reason alone.
I think for me, when it's firing, it's a bit like a really animated conversation over a dinner table. Everybody's so engaged with it that you lose track of time, you contribute freely, you've come to trust each other enough that you know when to hold and when to give, you know when to allow others to speak, you know when somebody should take a lead and when you should support them, and then there's the trust in the group that it works both ways. And I think arriving at that place is, for me, when the sort of magic happens, and that what comes with that is a certain level of trust. As we move through difficult discussions, challenging discussions, or we come up with innovative solutions very quickly.
The ideas that are coming out are awesome and so energising.
There is this something that happens that leaves us feeling good, but I'm also interested in how it manifests itself as an agent of change, and I'm fascinated by what that change may be.
My view on the value of this is really around identity. It's really around our tangata whenuatanga. What does that mean? And how, once we understand what our tangata whenuatanga actually is, what is tangata whenuatanga to us of Waipoua, how do we then express that?
Whatever we do it's got to be nourishing and empowering of our people. And so we've got to somehow get to them.
Some people naturally were more drawn to or engaged more actively in the physical mahi than the corridor, if you like, that was happening in the whare. And one of the ideas that we wanted to incorporate into each wānanga actually was physical labour, physical mahi. We planted some trees, for example, at the second wānanga, and that process reconnects people. It reconnects people to the whenua in the broader sense. Ko maunga nui te maunga. Ko tauirua te moana. Ko Waipoua te awa. An idea was to hikoi our pepeha, to hikoi the Waipoua River. Which will be an experience for us all.
See, I gotta find a way to elevate consciousness high. past reality.
I decided upon a route based around a waiata, which talks about significant places within the Waipoua, so that the participants have a physical relationship or a physical experience with these places, so that when the waiata is performed, the participants have had a physical connection to those places. You know, not just singing words off a piece of paper or singing words about stuff that they haven't experienced. It's also about creating a setting for people to experience the environment, connect with the environment, and this is all about tangata whenuatanga. Tangata whenuatanga is an expression of us being of the land. The key outcome of the hikoi down the river was a positive collective experience for those that embarked upon it. It was challenging, and it sort of brought to the fore the spirit of the collective. It highlighted the importance that we see in actually connecting with our whenua. Let's look at what else we can do. How can we heighten this experience? How can we be more connected with the whenua? What are the things that we can do that might be an expression of our kaitiakitanga and our tangata whenuatanga? What we're doing is looking at fundamental information of who we actually are and looking to elicit key narratives from that fundamental information to give expression and find how we might express that. And that might be in those forms of it, those types of encounters. Anything conceivable, wherever our strengths lie and our interests lie, we might take a narrative and give expression to it in any way that we actually feel confident to do. When we're thinking about how we want to run this wānanga, we want to, I think, be reflecting on some of the things that we spoke about yesterday with regard to the purpose of Te Rau Titapu and how we all identified that as being revolving around belonging and identity and connection and so forth. And what I think we need to do is be asking the question of ourselves, what is it that we want the participants, including ourselves, to be experiencing?
The way the process is unfolding, whilst there may have been a general idea as to a direction it might go in, or that it perhaps should go in, things have happened at each of the wānanga that have diverted it perhaps off what may be seen as the main route. But in my view, those diversions are all part of it anyway.
I think the change in approach has occurred as a result of the realities of Waipoua, I suppose. There's varying levels of experiences in Waipoua and a lot of experience, collective experience of Waipoua, but there still remains somewhat a disconnect of actual realities at present. And I think therefore the change in approach is that at one point at the start of the project we came with these preconceived ideas of what needed to happen within the community. And as we've spent more time in the community really trying to sort of get to the bottom of what's happening and what needs to happen, those perceptions have changed.
Community is often difficult to define, and so one of the discussions today was about, the people that are living here on the whenua, and then those that are living away and coming have to travel back to the whenua, and creating that relationship between those two groups. And I think we arrived and are arriving through the process of this wānanga. And again, there's the immediate participants of the wānanga, but the other participants of the wānanga are the broader community, and through this process I think they are gaining trust in the participants' commitment, but also in the validity of the process of wānanga. Obviously there's something that keeps these people coming back month after month to the marae to go for walks on the whenua, and I think the home people can't help but see that. And I think some of the some of their expressions are just confirming that they see value also.
We've connected more strongly with the community that are here. So I do think that that's wasn't necessarily maybe how we kind of envisaged it or talked about it, but that's the way it has happened and that's the way it should have happened. And that's good learning. I think that's really good learning for me. And I think for us as a group.
We've talked and ranged over a period of time over quite a vast area of potential. What I'm feeling needs to happen is we've developed some ways of operating with each other. We've developed, in some ways, a consensus around key areas or areas that we've discussed amongst ourselves, but also with our extended family and networks and friends. And I think it's time to test some of those assumptions with activities, and we have done that. We've walked down the river, we've been up the mountain, we've gathered whānau, planted trees. But I think because it's so broad, the things we've discussed, we've now got the opportunity to really identify perhaps the lay of the land and then start to decide where to prioritise energy and also create ways to communicate simply with others how it is that they may place themselves in that landscape.
One point that we arrived at was this idea of exploring fundamental information, which is essentially narratives that are associated to the community of Waipoua. What are they and how can they be explored through wānanga? As we've evolved further and continued to conduct wānanga, we have come more to a conclusion that the fundamental information or these historical narratives aren't necessarily there to inform wānanga, rather to be connected to priorities that exist within the community. And is there a corresponding or a correlating narrative that can aid in giving depth to the wānanga that we want to pursue? We've been doing this kaupapa for about 3 years, and in that time we've had several wānanga within the whare and at the marae. Been on a hikoi down the river, walked up Maunganui, and now we're going out to Kawirua. So
we're going to go through a bit of a timeline of events that's happened out at Kawirua to kind of introduce people into what's going on, and then boosting out to the beach. I can't get this off, bro. You can, bro. What frustrates me is that there's a need to do this. It's an attempt to secure the bloody resource. Just recently, 250 powers, pulled undersized powers, we pulled from a car with 5 occupants just end of last year, a few months ago. And that's kind of just a common thing with Kawirua. MAF can't police it, not enough resources, but it's more about the kids that do it. It's more about the people that feel that they can go and rape the bloody resource like that.
Got it.
So we're here at Kawirua. This point that we're standing on is Matatuahu. And the significance of this site and the whenua here is that this is where the Mahuhu landed, the Mahuhu ki te rangi waka. There's a long timeline of events and stories and histories associated to this place. And coming here physically as a people, as a group, is about having shared experiences on our land, on our whenua. We'll set aside a time specifically for the repositories of kōrero pertaining to this place, the kaumātua, to provide somewhat of a guided tour, if you like, of kōrero, where they can point out key landmarks, share some of the historical knowledge that they have about the place with the group.
All right, me and Alex are going to Waipoua to talk to ourselves. See us.
Titiro ki tua o te ngahere Waipoua ko ngā whanaunga o ki a ngā whakapakarakia Hoki mai ki te rakau rangatira Tane mahuta
So this is the defensive ditch on the southern side of the pā itself. So we're now standing on the, I suppose you can call it the tihi. And this platform that goes from here through to that northern bit is what Oetenga was.
People that have spent time here have got their own experiences or may have been told stories by their tupuna. And what we want to try and do is collate some of that information of the participants that come to the wānanga and add that to the existing research that we've been able to compile and support it with all this anecdotal stuff. Ultimately, we want to pull this information together and use it in a way that helps inform decision making. So when we're talking about the whenua of Te Roroa, Kawerua being part of that, that whoever it is that's in the decision making position has access to the information and the voice of the people.
O Tangaroa, ki paenga kai moana, ki ka werua, piki ake ki te maunga, tumo ana, maunga nui, tuaenga nui, I ka werua, meripiro, keiripiro, ko more monui, te wahi pakanga nunui, tēnei te karanga o Te Roroa. Whakarongo ki te reo o Te Roro Waipoua te awa maunga nui te maunga taho te tangata e.
What practical outcomes there might be, perhaps that's perhaps a little further down the track, and it may be in that much broader iwi context. If we're talking about it at that broad scale, I think there has to be buy-in from key individuals who may help to drive it and focus it. You know, if we use the claims process as an example of how we worked as a community, there were key people in Kaihu, key people in Waipoua, key people in Waimamaku who focused it, and we worked together as like a cabinet or as a caucus or whatever. And it survived because we had a common goal. And perhaps you'd have to have the same sort of situation post that settlement now, where everyone has the same goal. It's the common purpose that will link and tie people together.
I think that we need to learn in these kind of wānanga other ways of interacting with each other, like this, having this kind of day where we're relaxing with each other and we're sharing things differently. It's not just intellectual, it's about a physical and emotional involvement with each other.
What I think Te Rau Titapu has instilled in me is a sense of obligation and responsibility to this kaupapa, and it's provided a vehicle to motivate me to get here and be a part of this.
The transformation of Māori communities is a critically important issue facing this country. It's not an ethnicity issue in that regard. It's as important to the future of this country as is getting the economy right. It's of that scale. The economy is not an ethnicity question, and neither is the transformation of Māori communities. What distinctive, valuable wonderful contributions can our Māori communities bring forth for the benefit of our nation overall? What wonderful contributions are we able to bring forth that cannot be sourced from any other community within New Zealand and yet can make positive and life-affirming contributions to New Zealand overall? And I suggest it's right here in these things. This is where we're going to find these beautiful taonga.
Can't be found. Well, in this love, I'm taking another step in, and I'm putting it down to how I feel. Oh, it's so good when I know that you're by my side. I go crazy, your love is amazing. There is nothing I have to hide. Ooh, this love has got me bound in time. I'm losing sleep, I've lost my mind. This love has got me bound in time. I'm losing sleep, I've lost my mind. Can't be found. Can't be found. This love is just like water on my skin. Every day I'm falling in so deep. Oh, it's so good when you're holding me. I get a little weak and I go crazy. Love is amazing, and there is nothing I have to hide. Ooh, this love has got me bound in